Okay, I will do roll call to establish quorum. It's Monique. Evan Decker.
Here, present.
Scott Parsons.
Here.
Reverend Julius Van Hook.
Here.
And Brenda.
Here.
Lee, sorry. Okay. All members are present.
Great. And okay, so sorry, I'm just a little discombobulated because I've lost Crawford's handy introduction. So that I was using to, and here it is. Perfect timing. Sorry. All right, well, at any rate, are we going to do introductions of
you can, if you'd like to do your introduction, the script first, and then you can have each board member introduce themselves. And I can call them if you like, but you can do your script first if you like.
Okay, yeah, the script is what I couldn't find.
Oh, okay, okay. So, well, we are the.
Oh, well, that would be great. Hold on. Oh, wait, maybe it's here.
Give me a moment, I'll call it up here.
And if you like, Evan, we can.
I did find it.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, so good morning and welcome. This is the Outreach and Community Engagement Standing Committee of CAB. We are here in person. We have no folks attending online, so we don't need to worry about that. And the purpose of CAB is to assist in gathering and providing information pertaining to the county's efforts in criminal justice reinvestment. Some of our responsibilities are to identify outreach methods and engage the community regarding initiatives related to public safety realignment, improve public access to information regarding realignment, provide membership cultivation and succession planning for CAB, also to nurture the CAB ambassador program and organize our annual new membership orientation. We're grateful for those of you members that are here and committee, are members of this committee, and appreciate your time and commitment. And so in terms of introductions, we'll start with our OCEC members. We'll do any additional CAB members, staff, and then others that are present. So OCEC members, would anyone like to start? Go ahead.
Good morning, I'm Brenda Lee and I'm from West County. This is my first year.
I'm Reverend Julius Van Hook, and I'm from West County. This is my first year as well. First.
Evan Decker, also from West County.
And Scott Parsons from the town of Moraga and Central County. Been here about a year.
Yeah, this is my third month or something like that. Any CAB members?
Crawford Carpenter, CAB member, been here for 2.5 years. This is going to be my third year.
Fantastic. Staff.
Hi, I'm Monique Tate with the Office of Reentry and Justice. Glad to be with you.
And additional members of the community.
John Dante, I founded the Balance Point Foundation, and what I focus on is helping people in recovery from drugs and/or alcohol. Of course, we deal with all kinds of people with, mental health addictions and incarceration issues and things of that sort. That's what we do.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, John. Okay. Are there any announcements first by any OCEC or CAB members? Seeing no announcements. Any other announcements? Monique or John? No? Okay. And is there any public comment on any item under the jurisdiction that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing no public comment, we will go to the meeting minutes from March 21st, which should be page 4 through 6 in our agenda packets. And if everyone has a minute to review. Okay.
I can move if you'd like, that we accept the minutes from the March 21 CAB OCEC meeting that are duly posted here.
I'll second, that's Brenda Lee.
Okay. Scott moved and Brenda seconded for the purposes of the recording. Any additional discussion? No? Okay, Monique, did you want to take a roll then?
Yes.
Or call?
Evan?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Reverend Van Hook?
Yes.
And Brenda?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great, fantastic. Okay, so next up on our agenda, thank you, John, for introducing yourself earlier. I think we have your presentation, or at least some slides from the presentation, and on to you.
I think Monique was going to show them on the screen.
Oh, great.
There we go.
Fantastic.
Okay, great. So the whole idea here is for you all to do less work and have better results. Long story short, and in 15 minutes, I'm going to give you 30 years. So basically my background, it pretty much says what it is at the top. My way of helping people is giving back right now to people who are dealing with drug and or alcohol issues. Some people are homeless, some people have mental health issues, some people are incarcerated. I understand the drug and alcohol part real well. Got my recovery going when I was 25, had a great career, enjoyed it. Going on to the third slide. Next one. Yep. You'll see why this history is important here in a few minutes. On this one page, there's decades of education and experience with very large companies, very large private companies, and a lot of successful projects. I can't even begin to tell you how many. The sweet part is you're going to get the benefit of those efforts. All those lessons I learned, you get the shortcut. Next slide, number 4. There we go. So just so you understand, these are 3 parts of a very large methodology. The beauty of this methodology is it's very, very modular. And with Crawford's help, I got a better idea of what it is you're all looking for and trying to accomplish. So I'm zeroing in on these 3 things here. The simplified handoffs and succession planning. When resources come, resources go. I hear 3 people are on their first year here. The thing is with projects, you can't lose ground. You can't slow down, or at least in the tech world where I came from. You can't do that. Otherwise, the cost will have overruns, or the schedule will go crazy, or the quality will drop, right? And you have staffs of 50, 100 people working on a project, and they come and go. It's that simple. And basically what you want to do is you want to capture your information and then continuously build on it. I'm going to use Microsoft as an example. In 1977, I don't know if anybody used Microsoft in 1977. I would not. It was pretty horrible. Let's put it that way. It was nothing like it is today. It was difficult to use. It had lots and lots of glitches and bugs. Well, you know, almost 50 years later, we're looking at Microsoft, and that software is excellent. And what they did was they kept improving it. You know, they'd collect bug fixes, and those are the, if you look at the version number, there's a version dot something. The dot something are the bug fixes. So they asked people, what doesn't work? What's glitchy? And then they would fix it. And you'd have the 1, 2, 3, dot 1, dot 2, dot 3, dot 4. And then the primary number, the one before the dot, is major functionality releases. And they would work on those through the course of the year. And that's how you got Windows 98 and the current version and many, many versions in between. But they built on a foundation. They didn't recreate the wheel each time they set out to do something. And they admitted their mistakes too, which was another thing, which is great for Microsoft. The way they did this was they measured things. They had to measure things. They had to get feedback from the customers. If they didn't measure things, it would be so easy to lose perspective. You think you're doing great, but maybe not so much, okay? And how do you really know if you're gaining or losing or making no progress at all, just flat, all right? In the development world, you develop the software, and then you put the software out where it gets used, right? The development process uses methodology, and then you measure the results of how it performs once you release it. So that's like a separate project. There's two projects. Interesting part about measurement is it can be real time. So if you know your project's going off the hook or off the rails or whatever you want to call it, you can reel it in before too much damage is done. If you realize you're falling behind or you're over budget or you know your quality is starting to slip, that's how you invest. Next slide. We're slipping, there we go. So the handoff part, you all have the slide and you've probably read it. There are several tools out there. They're called workflow automation tools. And you're using something very similar to that. You're using Excel currently. Smartsheets is one that is in an Excel format, but it gives you a lot more functionality than Excel would do. So basically what these tools do is they document a process or a list of instructions of how you go about doing something. You say you do outreach, so there's obviously many, many steps in setting up an event, right? You have to invite people, you have to have your materials, all those things, right? Lots and lots of steps. That in itself is a project. That's a process, right? So those things can be loaded into these workflow automation tools. Here's the beautiful part. When it's all said and done, and you already have this, you can load some of the stuff you have. When it's all said and done, next year, can alert you and say, you know, last year, man, a little tight on time. Maybe you want to start a week earlier, something like that. Why live through the stress if you can avoid it, basically? All the files that go with that project can be attached to the workflow management tool. So what happens is, let's say you created a flyer to post, or you put data out through the social media. All that stuff would be available just to modify it. You don't have to recreate the wheel and shoot it out again. So the sweet part is, this is going to help you hone your timing. And I'm going to give you a couple examples here in a little bit. But basically, you don't want to be stressed and under pressure because you don't have time. On the other hand, you don't want to be sitting around wasting time twiddling your thumbs, right? Because you'd probably rather be doing something else. So it's trying to achieve that balance. Next slide. Okay, so we're looking at a couple things here that can help you out right away. When you're setting up emails for a group, I set it up by function, not necessarily by a person's name. Sorry, but you know, I can appreciate personalization, but if one of you gets hit by the bus, I hate to put that out there, or in my case, I got hit by the bus in a project, things would really take a rough path, right? So if somebody needs to come in and replace that person, it's simplified. They can just go into the email and say, okay, this person's an administrative assistant. That's actually the example I give. Because I had an administrative assistant when I worked, and it took me a long time to get that person to do everything just the way I needed it done. What happens if she quits? What happens if she gets hit by the bus? I'd be up the creek without a paddle, pretty much. By having an email that just says administrative assistant to, you know, director of IT, anybody can slip into that role. I could take an assistant from from the pool, I guess, if you will, put them in, they can glance through the emails, they can figure out what's going on without me having to sit there and explain every single little thing that's going on. The next thing that helps, and I notice people do this a lot, they use their personal cell phones. And I understand that, it's easy. But again, when that person leaves, they take the cell phone. Everybody that contacted that person has to be contacted, and you have to tell them, oh, a new person is in this role, all right? Well, dealing with customers is very, very difficult. I couldn't possibly contact all the customers and say, oh, I have a new assistant, her number is this. No, they'd have a cow, to be honest with you. So basically, by having a standard email, a standard phone number, it's a smooth transition. People can come, people can go. The outside world really doesn't know, okay? They may recognize a different voice, but that's about it. And then let's say something happens and I'm on the road and this assistant needs to know something. Rather than me pausing for an hour, which I probably wouldn't have had to explain it to her, I can say, hey, go to the workflow automation tool and look this up, whatever this is. They would get to that and would see the whole project. They'd see the whole history of it. They'd see who was contacted, who was involved, all those things. It doesn't take a long time to put that information in. It does when you're starting from scratch. But I'll tell you the benefits further down the road are tremendous. And I'm going to show you an example in a minute. So basically, by pointing them to the emails, by pointing them to a workflow automation tool, they can get up to speed faster on their own. I mean, wouldn't you love it if somebody handed you everything that happened for the last 3 or 4 years in this group? You'd have something to go off of, right? That's the thinking. And rather than kind of having to surf around and go through the same experience. Good example is 30 years of information is what I'm trying to convey here real quick. You don't have to go through the 30 years. It's pretty simple. So next slide, which should be number 7. Process and process improvement. I have a Sam's Club explanation here. This is a true experience. This is how a survey can work. Necessarily going to give you what you need. In the case of Sam's Club, I think their objective was to get rid of cashiers. They wanted to bring in these automated self-checkout aisles, right? So at the end of the receipt, they posted a survey. At the time, I was buying for 5 houses. So my receipts were about 3 feet long. I'm not going to get to the bottom of it. I'm not even going to look at the receipt. I'm going to give it to an accountant. So I come in a few weeks later, a couple of cashiers are going, all these machines are in place, and they'd say, you can go scan your own. I didn't have to do this before. Why do I have to do this now? Oh, we took a survey. So, oh, really? And everybody overwhelmingly voted for the machines. I said, I didn't see the survey. They explained it was on the end of the receipt. I said, okay, great. And I asked them, I said, how many people responded to the survey? It was minuscule. And I said, how many people come through here on a day? It was immense. So basically what happened was a very small portion of people that went through Sam's Club made a very big decision. Machines replaced humans. Okay. I personally prefer humans, and I don't like to do more work than I have to at checkout, especially since they're not giving me a break on the cost. So they're putting me to work for free. I don't like that idea. So I handed them my card and I said goodbye. I don't know if that was a desired result when they set out the survey to lose customers, and customers that spent a hefty amount of money. I mean, I spent more than your average family, let's put it that way. So, you know, they got what they wanted. They wanted machines, but did they really get what they want? They lose customers. Tough one, right? So that's my example of surveys. You have to be very, very careful when you use a survey. It's human to want a favorable result. We want what we want. Pretty simple, it's human nature, right? Unfortunately, like the Sam's Club situation, you may not get the result you want. I personally would rather have a measurement that lets me know I'm off track so I can correct it as quick as possible, number one. Number two, if I don't have the ability to get that measurement in real time, what I would like to do is after a project, you sit around and you basically discuss, what could we have done better? I didn't like being stressed because I didn't have enough time. You know, if we had gotten this instead of that, it would have been so much easier. You know, those kinds of things. You make those notes. So when this project comes back around the next year, or you're adding more functionality to the project, you can incorporate those things that were fresh in your memory at the end of the project that you just completed the year prior, right? So what basically happens, this is the continuous improvement process. You have something, you realize that, okay, maybe it didn't work out perfectly, right? Nothing ever does. I can't think of one thing in my life where I just set out to do it and it worked perfectly the first time. First time I got on a bicycle, I crashed. Okay, you know, it took a few crashes before I figured out how to ride a bicycle, right? It's the same thing. The next time you learn, don't pedal your bicycle by rose bushes. It's not a good idea. Okay, so you take it somewhere else, right? So basically, you know, again, the Microsoft thing, they surveyed or they collected bugs, and they addressed the bugs they collected out of their entire community. They made sure the whole community knew you can call this phone number and complain. So nobody was left out like Sam's Club. Well, they wound up with a much better product. I shop at Costco now, by the way. So the next slide, which is simplicity. This is actually a really simple one. This complexity is simple, simplicity is complex. It took me years to figure that out. I was talking to Brenda before the meeting, and I was a real techie guy, and I wanted to learn how to speak with 2 people. So I made a deal, and I said, you know, give me a project where I can interact with, you know, seniors. They gave me a proposal to do, and I did it, and I won. And I got exposed to some very high level people at Cadillac. This is where it was. And through that project, I learned what it is they wanted. That's where I came up with, oh my gosh, I would have given them a proposal like that if I hadn't known better. I ended up giving a proposal that was 12 pages. That's why we won. So they didn't have to read through a book the size of War and Peace, right? And so, you know, to complicate something is super easy. You can just stick in all kinds of things and it looks good, right? But to boil it down to its simplest form, that's 3 words. A lot of people say it's 6. It's 3. They're just switched around. And it says it all. You know, you have to put some thought in to simplify things. That's how you do that process improvement year after year after year, project after project. So, you know, basically it takes time. You're not going to get it the first go out the door. The methodology exists. All I'm giving you right now is those 3 little pieces. There's a lot more to it. It's more than you need. What you need is probably to deal with people leaving these committees and coming back to these committees and getting the projects out the door as effectively as you can year after year after year. And basically by doing this, by doing a little bit of entry in these processes we just discussed, it's going to get simpler and simpler. And I'll give you one more example. I have had 5 houses. I now have 3 because of COVID. Each year we do Thanksgiving dinner. So the first year I went around and I asked everybody, what do you like to have for Thanksgiving? I come from Detroit, where I was born and raised. I didn't know macaroni and cheese was part of Thanksgiving. I had no idea.
How did you not know?
That's exactly what they said to me. That is exactly what they said to me. So needless to say, on this little workflow automation tool, I put macaroni and cheese. Well, of course, the first year we set out, we went to the stores and everybody was sold out of this and sold out of that. And so, you know, so we had to go to a lot of different stores. First note of, you know, post-Thanksgiving was start earlier. And then the next note was, where was I able to find what it is I was looking for? Where could I find the peanut oil to dip the turkey? Who had the right kind of stuffing or whatever, you know? And for Pete's sakes, don't forget the macaroni and cheese. Oh, by the way, we had lumpy macaroni and cheese the first year because we didn't stir it enough, apparently. But the next year, it was nice and creamy. Nice. And each year after, it's gotten better and better. And okay, so we went for one rough one. This year, just like every other year, I'm going to bring out that tool. And we'll get our shopping done in like a day instead of a week. And it'll all be there. So that's the whole purpose of this presentation, is to make it simpler for you and those who follow you. Because in 2-3 years, I don't know what the term is here, but when your term is up, somebody else has to step in. And if you've already got it dialed in, bonus. So that's basically the presentation. This methodology works. It's actually quite simple. And it gets better and better year after year, project after project. And the last slide is my contact information in case you have any additional questions. I'm more than happy to answer anything I can. As Crawford did, he explained what he wanted the presentation to more or less look and feel like. So I was able to take all my experiences and just put this together real quick. And that was it. I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, feel free.
It's great. Thanks so much, John. I know 3 of us, you know, being within our first year and with you know, the continuity, you know, what I've understood in the past few months being a serious issue with kind of fluctuations in membership. Some of the questions that do come up are, what is our purpose? What are we supposed to do? where do we go to find information, that type of thing. And so really walk through kind of the path to simplicity is really fantastic. I wonder, as a I'll ask a question, and other folks ask questions also. I wonder in terms of we have folks within CAB, varying levels of experience, varying levels of technology experience, varying levels of life experience with in regards to utilizing different tools or understanding project management steps, that kind of thing. What kind of within a kind of establishing a system that can be passed on to folks of varying degrees, what other components other than the system itself would you see needing to be communicated from?
Other than these three modules, or more depth within these three modules?
Just kind of wondering for, the like how you're saying, if the person with the, if the person kind of holding all of the information and the know-how leaves,
Right.
then how do we, what is the process for that step? Like, what would that look like?
By getting the tool, by getting a tool, right now, somebody has a spreadsheet somewhere that has your current, plan for the year. That's a great start at a high level. So now the question is, under any one of those, what detail is necessary? Well, thank goodness you have Crawford with 2.5, 3 years here, so memory is probably pretty good.
And 7 months to go.
And 7 months to go, so you hear what I'm saying. You're gonna be busy. You need to extract that information and get it down as quickly as possible into those tools, right? It's not any harder than Excel, honestly. It's that simple. It just has additional features to alert you and to do some measurement and things like that. You can use those features if you like or not, just like Excel. So, obviously you want to store this someplace safe, have it backed up. You probably have some sort of administrator for the system here. I'm guessing Monique's got a lot of things on her system as well. And that's how you pass it down, so that you only have a couple things to really pass down. You have the workflow automation tool, which is an expansion of your Excel sheet. You have contacts. If you keep your emails, right, people will be able to search through those, the people that come after. And, it becomes a self-learning thing. So it's just a matter of hanging on to that data. None of that data is large. It's all very, very small. You could probably fit it on a thumb drive kind of thing. I mean, it's really not, it's not like storing videos or things like that. You need a lot of space. And the nice part is when you're going out the door, you can say, everything I did is here. And if you have any questions, look here, look there, look the other place. Last resort, contact me. And, there is a handoff there, unless the bus situation occurs. But, and I was always terrified of the bus myself, because I literally flew every single day. I was going somewhere. And the odds of crashing they're there, they're realistic. Bad weather, all those kinds of things. And what happens to 30 or 40 projects that are in the works if I drop out of the picture? There would be a lot of people fumbling. I couldn't have that. So all these things were structured. And that's really what this is about. It's just structuring and creating a process, a flow. And that's all it is. It's really not hard. I know a lot of people can be intimidated. They hear project management methodology, and yeah, if you look at the whole thing, it can be pretty intimidating. You have to have somebody to guide you through it. These 3 steps, actually pretty easy, really easy. You already have most of it. The only thing I would suggest is perhaps looking at a couple different workflow automation tools. Smart Sheets is one. It's a nice little tool. Another one is Zoho, which is ZOHO. And Zoho is a complete system. It has everything. It has the accounting in it, everything. You can run a full business off of that if you want, or you can just use the project management part, which gives you that workflow automation. And the nice part about workflow automation, let me give you an example. Let's say you decide to use social media, because most people have been given a phone if they don't already have a phone, right? What if you want to do a blast to everyone? Well, interesting thing is this tool can do it for you. Once you have the numbers loaded, it can take care of all that stuff. You just tell it what you want it to send and when you want it to send it, and it'll do it year after year after year. And it'll contact all the people. So if you have an event, instead of having 200 or 300 people, you might have 2,000 or 3,000, which is daunting, but that's social media. And I know they use social media because I see them at my houses. That is what they're doing most of the time. They're fiddling on their social media accounts. And the best part is you can organize it. So let's say you want to send one message, you'll use multiple social media vehicles to reach them. It'll use TikTok, it'll use whatever it needs to use. So makes your life easier. It's not, again, honestly, not complicated. I mean, I'm saying that as a tech guy, but I've seen just average people use it. It's really, I have an assistant now, and they're using it. And I didn't have to teach them. I gave them a video and said, watch this video. And they did. And they're doing it, which is pretty doggone incredible. It's beautiful when things get that simple. And I don't know if anybody here uses YouTube at all. YouTube has everything. My car breaks, I go there. And it usually has a video. Zoho has videos for their entire suite. So does Smartsheets. So you can go out there and actually see it being used.
Thanks for that response.
Absolutely.
Any questions or additional comments, thoughts?
I just think workflow tools can really be great with keeping, things managed properly. Definitely in agreement with overall use of some automation to keep things going. Keeps that consistent presence.
Computers don't forget.
The crash.
I was thinking that's why you have backup.
Yeah. Definitely. Any thoughts?
No, it's great though.
Alfred, any
Yeah, I have a question. The whole point of asking you, and maybe you could assist us in, because I know you have a time limit on this with your agenda, Evan. We were talking about culture and mission. And then you volunteered to say, I've got a process to help you. Could you maybe share with us quickly how that can help? Our concern is, what do we do to develop our culture, to enhance our culture? How is this process going to help us? Because I understand Walmart and Sam's, etc., and Cadillac, but I'm trying to get to the meat. And the meat is culture, and how do we improve it? How do we see what we can do on our mission, etc.? Succinctly, if you could, please.
Absolutely. Typically what someone does is they define their mission up front, and everything else ties to it. And that's what you're measuring against typically. That's the one thing I would recommend doing is, what are your objectives? What is your mission? What are your objectives? First two things to do. And then the question becomes, how do you measure this? All right. In my particular case, I look at people with drugs and/or alcohol issues, and I know that the percentage of success was, by my definition of success, which is long-term abstinence and deeper understanding of sobriety, okay, and over years. So in the beginning, the first 2-3 years I was doing this, the percentage was very low. Nationally, the percentage is horrible. It's like 1%, less than a percent, I think. I'm dealing with 75-80%. So 75 to 80% of the people that come in are reaching that definition of success. And that was my personal goal. I wanted to see that number go up. So I didn't just have people coming in and going out the door no better. That they came in the door and then their life got better and better. And I have people now that are 8 years old. So that's going that person. So that's a part of how to do it. And that's part of the culture, is to say, this is our mission. These are our objectives, and this is how we will evaluate whether or not we're actually meeting these objectives and fulfilling our mission. And that's the simplest way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. John, thanks so much for your time and
really
coming through and
You're very well
sharing your experience.
And this is something I've done over and over and over again. Employers I've worked for, 10, 12. The companies I've interacted with doing this in the thousands. It's insane. So thank you.
Thank you for your contact.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Feel free anytime. I always answer the phone. If I don't, I call back right away.
All right. So we'll go on to our next item. Feel free to hang out, or if you
Do you mind?
I don't mind.
I attend a lot of the meetings,
Okay.
different groups, just because I'm trying to understand this process,
Mm-hmm.
so I can help in some way.
Okay. Well, we do have some vacancies if you're if you're interested. Okay. All right. So item number 5 on our agenda is our continued discussion around the onboarding plan for new CAB members and the onboarding process. So I'm hoping to utilize this time a little bit as a potential working meeting of sorts. At the last CAB general meeting, there was a discussion about documents and file storage and where does that stuff go, and Justin was volunteering his time, and then as Patrice was talking about where the documents would go and that kind of thing, she said something like related to documents for new members or something like that. And I said, oh, well, wait a minute, that's more like an OCEC thing that we want to be involved with. And so with that kind of in mind and thinking about the onboarding process, we do have the retreat, right? That is something that we're meant to put together, and the materials and documents around that. But I'm wondering if folks are open to it and other ideas as well, if we wanted to just take some time right now to kind of think through, with ourselves coming on board, what would be helpful information, documentation that we would appreciate as a part of that process, unless that already exists somewhere and I just don't know where it is, right? Which I don't think we have a list like that yet.
May I comment? There's a huge binder that you get for the doggone retreat, and that's over 2 days. It's unwieldy. And you may say you want information, and then somebody will say, oh, go to the binder. oh my God, if you want to go through that much. And hopefully, and that's, you know, I think you presented it well. Our task is, how do we come up with some pertinent information? And maybe a start is what we sent you as to the chair. This is what the chair of OCEC is going to have, just pertinent documents.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you could build upon that. But again, the key becomes, you don't want a binder that's 110 pages, because people are not just going to be able to read it.
Mm-hmm.
It may be a good reference tool, and God bless everybody that's put it together. Tremendous amount of work, tremendous information, but to have something at your fingertips, I'm not so sure that's what we want to do. So, Evan, yeah.
Yeah, Evan, I'm curious with this subject. Is it just that you'd like to have general conversation about it, or kind of an intel gathering, or are there problems with it that you'd like to improve on? Because so far I've thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the onboarding process has been largely managed, or at least initiated through Monique, publicizing our need through a number of different channels. We get applicants, the applicants are interviewed twice, which is kind of interesting, but maybe more than twice at times. In any event, what part of it is it you'd like to, you want to change it? Or, and by the way, it may need change, but I've been impressed at least with how the county staff have at least initiated the front end of it, you know, through the publications and postings and things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I'm just thinking more of the intel, and so I wonder. No doubt, I think at the CAB meeting, Monique was referred to as an angel by someone.
By someone.
But I mean, I think what I've heard over the past few months in relation to this is, and even I think within our work plan, is kind of refining and defining those steps. And so while I think you're saying outreach, you're saying application, interview, second interview. I'm more thinking when the person gets to that, past that second interview, and okay, you're a member of CAB, you're going to go into this work group.
What does that look like?
What do they get? Because as Crawford mentioned, the retreat, the documents are a bit overwhelming, and I mean, very well done, right? But it is a lot to go through. And so when I, like, for example, when I think about within my work in the at the college and like sharing information about a college program, we share a one-pager that tells you kind of in no more than 5 bullets, like what the program is, you know, with some flashy pictures and length and that kind of thing. And so that's more kind of something that you're stepping into where you're not like, oh my goodness, what is it that I'm doing? Because I think some of the things that I heard at the last CAB meeting for people that perhaps may have been here a year or more, we're still like, well, what is our purpose? What are we meant to do? Where do I get this information of? What am I actually supposed to do?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's more
well, that
what I
makes
was
total
thinking,
sense.
but I wonder from others too.
Well, you know, you just created a flash for me on all of this, because all of us kind of have come in a different way. I never got an orientation.
Yeah.
I had Crawford.
Yeah.
And thank heavens, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't have a concerted effort by a group of people to get me on the right track, because I came in kind of out of the cycle. of that training. And that's something, the other thing is because of the Brown Act and the nature of the way we do business, it's kind of like getting on an escalator the second you've been approved. And you're all of a sudden in processes, right? So I think your concern is legitimate. I just kind of wanted to hear it because I didn't know where you were coming from on it. But I think we can clearly do more to make a person that comes in, particularly out of cycle, to feel more comfortable and to have a better grasp of what our mission is and what we're trying to accomplish. And that's part of that onboarding that I think we probably could agree needs some work.
Yeah. Curious, Reverend Brenda, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was listening and the onboarding, I look at that as training. Because like I came in, okay, I went through the interview. I think I went through 2 interviews, right? I went through 2 interviews and then they voted on me. And I'm like, well, okay, that's nice, but what does that mean for me? I like to be trained. I want to know this is what I expect of you, okay? Or this, I know what the group is, what's expected of the group, CAB. And then I had to go OCEC. Okay, now what does that mean?
Right.
And what kind of training do I need to be successful in that? Because I have to be successful. It drives me crazy if I'm not. So that's what my issue was like. Okay, so I've read all the documents, the binder, okay, and I've gone through all that stuff, but then it just gets like a blur because you've read so much, and then I have to sort of bring myself back to OCEC because I think of CAB as just like an overdressing for me, but OCEC is where I do my work and where I want to be trained to do the proper thing. That's how I see it. So, and see, I'm like him. I was a system analyst, so I know what he's talking about. I know exactly what he's talking about. It's project management equipment. Yeah.
Way to hold your cards close.
Yes.
And everybody here has surfed the web. Is that fair? Yes.
Yeah.
Or surfed YouTube or whatever the case is. Again, this is what you would be able to do once you've loaded these processes, these things in, is you would be able to put in OCEC and it would bring up
Everything for that.
everything for that.
Yes.
And then you can sift through it quickly. And it's you basically go at your own curiosity base. And it seems like everybody's capable of that. That's what we do. It's just a little digging, but it's there.
Okay. Julius, I wonder from you.
Well, yeah, I'm in agreement, like everyone has said. I think there's a general understanding, but I think because of the length of the commitment, an in-depth understanding would help the group to have greater impact because of the level of time we're committed to being here. You really understand a little bit more or some of the intricacies, then I think that it would definitely help to make things more robust, even just with people that are here in general.
And I think, I don't know if you two experienced this, but I had a perception of what we do by reading certain things.
Correct.
In all honesty, once you come into the fold, it's a little different.
It is.
Maybe it's really a lot different.
It is a lot different. I think it's different from what's it's definitely different.
So that was kind of an eye opener for me. It was like, oh, I think I misunderstood just a little bit of how this rolls.
Yeah,
Please.
Scott and I are working on the PowerPoint. Might that PowerPoint, because I think we figured it's going to be 18 to 23 minutes or somewhere there. Maybe that PowerPoint needs to be in the onboarding process. And in effect, we would bring, for example, Reverend Van Hook, and, he came in mid-cycle. And hopefully we could say, okay, we talked to him, we have a cup of coffee, but we go over that PowerPoint. And maybe that'll help us.
I think it will.
I don't know, but listening to this, maybe we need to rethink look at that PowerPoint again? Does that get to that message? Just a thought, Scott.
Yeah, it's a good thought. And I'm going to, in fact, when you send me the work that we did this morning,
Yeah.
I'm going to look at that from the perspective of what I've heard from my two colleagues here, or three,
Yeah.
excuse me, and see if maybe there's even some improvements.
Okay, and so maybe then the lens, Brenda, you see, you're to my left again. Okay, maybe maybe the lens then, once Scott, we complete that PowerPoint, we need Brenda, we need Reverend Van Hook and Evan. We need the three of you to step back. Yes, it's for the community at large, but to say, would this be helpful to you?
Yes.
When you first stepped on board? Maybe that's
Yes.
excellent. Okay, then. So you've given us more homework then.
What you're doing is you've outlined a process, right? Just your onboarding process. And now what you're doing is you're going through the steps. As long as the PowerPoint doesn't disappear before the next group comes in.
Oh, no.
You're in good shape, right? And you may find something else besides the PowerPoint. Those are the things that you link in. That's how you keep building. Now, someday parts may become obsolete, but that's okay.
Well, we were doing your Microsoft example because we've worked on this before. And then we learn a few things, and then we go, well, you know what? We should work on this again, because we can do this better,
So much better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that sounds right. Like the PowerPoint presentation with the various points and attachments, and so. Would it be worthwhile then to continue a conversation, or maybe we just wait for Scott and Crawford to go through your presentation, or do you want to hear a list of things we would think would be helpful? Or
Well, absolutely. Just a little bit of input that you three have given has helped. So I guess, is there anything else on this subject as it relates to the PowerPoint, because that is only able to achieve so much, right? But is there anything else that, of course, we don't have it in front of them? So maybe
I can tell you something I'm doing currently as a project for myself. Okay? And it might help you out a little bit. I'm very interested in what's going on with drugs and alcohol and recovery processes. So I do a lot of observation of YouTube. Some of these very, very knowledgeable people, I'm talking about multiple PhDs in the field, have 3, 4, 5 hour long sessions on there. It's brutal. Nobody's ever going to watch all that. I'm editing and I'm taking snippets. Is essentially what I'm doing. I'm taking snippets.
that's what we,
And anybody can look at it for 7 to 15 minutes. That's not a bad little snippet. But when you show them something that's 2 hours long,
Evan, may I ask?
I will say though, I did sit through the entire Brown Act YouTube presentation.
yeah.
Which was.
I'm so sorry.
Which was I mean, I think something like it was I'm not going to say it was engaging. It was very informative, and since this was a Brown Act committee, I knew like, oh, okay, this is really valuable. And so I think that.
May I ask another question, please, Evan? Monique, if I send you what Scott and I are currently working on, can you put that on the screen and they can give us suggestions, or is that inappropriate? I can send it to you in 2 minutes and then hopefully you.
So we won't be able to display it now because it wasn't included in the packet. However, I could send it to them, blind copy them and send it out, and they can work on it independently. we can do it that way. I've done that with other subcommittees.
Okay, so,
And then,
so then what?
And then they could bring it back to the next public meeting if they like, and you know, organize whatever the outcome is.
That's fine. So then, Scott, you and I, we better clean this thing up, and you'll get it. Well, no, we'll clean it up first, and then we'll send it to you. And if you could, because some of the slides are from previous presentations, so the formatting doesn't match. It isn't one standard, but we'll send it to you. But the key is we'll send it to you. Once we get it completed, then you can send it to the group. How's that?
Yes, that's correct.
Scott,
I think that's great. And though I'm gone for the next week, when I get back, you and I can finalize it. And I think that I've heard some valuable things this morning about how that whole onboarding kind of felt for you, and I think for all of us. So we can do better.
Well, could they just maybe give us 2 or 3 things you would like to see in there, and then we can write those down and see if we've got them? You know, that would be helpful.
It again. Yeah. That means we have to go back and look at the current.
Okay, I got you. Got it.
Yeah. That puts you kind of,
yeah.
This can be the catch-22 though. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. So how do you know what to ask for?
Yeah.
True.
You ask anyway and we'll see what happens.
Right. You have to have something that tickles your
Okay. We'll get the information to. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Because I think there's a both and of the way the retreat was done with the general CAB information and then kind of more of the subcommittee. Even within that second day of subcommittee, I was like, oh, we know these are all really interesting. Which one do I do? And then I was kind of still scrolling through, like, oh, wait, what are the ones that they're doing, or what are the ones that we're doing? And so I'm wondering, you know, even just for OCEC, if we just think about that for us and what would be helpful coming into this subgroup, you know, as initial.
Yeah. See, there's a good point, because we were looking as CAB, the overriding group. You're saying a little more understanding of the subcommittees and how they play.
Yeah, how they play, and then I mean, I think I guess so within the retreat, like even the getting into the budget and the thing of all that, like that was a lot, you know. That was a whole lot, and so it was helpful because it did make a connection. But I'm wondering if maybe we can as a work group kind of think that. I don't, you know, of course you all are down this road, but as a measure of preparing the presentation and getting ready for the retreat, we can look at the 2 days. It's very nicely bulleted out, all the different topics, and maybe as a task next step for our next meeting, we can, you know, check mark ones that were like, oh, more time on this, or circle less time on this one, or so that we, you know, begin to have an idea, you know, what would be, you know, helpful.
This is the retreat that you ran a few months back.
Yes, CAB has an annual retreat. We did ours in January of this year.
That video.
Yeah.
Trying to understand.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, great. So does that sound like a?
I think that's some good input.
Okay. Great. Okay. So also on here is the CAB's mission and values. Which I feel like it was covered in that first day of the retreat, but I'm still thinking, Crawford, that there's something more here to get at, but I don't think I'm exactly sure in terms of the OCEC role, what the conversation is to have, because this would be, in my thought, this is like a CAB general, right? There's kind of the legislation behind CAB, there's the purpose and function of CAB, and then, you know, ideally the mission and values actually goes above the purpose and function. So it seems like a broader conversation than just us, and something that, you know, would be helpful to be facilitated.
So on the exercise this morning that Crawford and I were involved in, it becomes apparent that there's kind of a PowerPoint if you're out in the public trying to generate interest.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's actually one that's informative that teaches you what you've really gotten yourself into, you know, what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to be, maybe have a couple different PowerPoints rather than try to fly the same plane to
Audience specific.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Because right now we're keeping it kind of brief bullets, those points. We're not drowning people in text or any of that. But for the level of detail you're talking about, at least, there's probably got to be another PowerPoint.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I was thinking this onboarding process, you were thinking about bringing people into the fold, but it sounds more like you're talking about like an outreach, the outreach component.
Yes, that's actually.
Is that like informational outreach or a recruitment outreach?
Kind of the same.
Well, that's two different things.
Well, it's two different things, but we were trying to accomplish the mission of, let's pretend I went to a Rotary meeting and I was going to show this.
Right.
And I was going to try to generate, it would be informational and have kind of a recruiting aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that's the PowerPoint that you guys are working.
Yep.
Okay. My apologies. I didn't understand that. So.
When that's done, I used to give a lot of presentations. What I did was I would have a whole bunch of little canned presentations, and at any time could be linked together.
Yeah.
And usually I showed up, and it's more or less how much time and what are they interested in, and then I would be able to pick those canned presentations and give them. And what I also have is I also have levels of detail in the presentation. So you may have a bullet that you want to embellish on one of the documents.
Okay. Thanks for that, John. So I don't have anything more to add around the mission and values. I don't think, unless anyone else does. Nope. Okay. All right. Great. All right. So number 6, the contact list for outreach. The email introduction, Monique.
Yes, and I'll be quick because it's 12:11, so that's the time check. So I don't have a list. I have a list of the mayors from the link that I provided, but I don't have all of their contact information yet. And so when I checked in with Patrice, we went over a couple of scenarios about the purpose of having the list for the mayors. So what I've come up with is possibly sending out an introductory email to the mayors once I get all of their contact information. I would blind copy them and blind copy you all. And I would attach Supervisor Carlson's email where he clearly is advertising CAB. He has a really good link on his newsletter that states commissions and boards that have vacancies, and CAB is clearly on there, and it's on there as, I don't know how regular he sends it out, but it's pretty regular because I get a copy of it. So I would say it feels like he sends it out at least a couple of times a month. And so that is the approach that I need to take once I get all of the emails for the different mayors. So just brainstorming with ORJ about what the purpose is. The purpose is really just to get the word out there. So you all won't be meeting with the mayors, but we want them to advertise in their newsletters so that their constituents will see, number one, that there is a community advisory board, and number two, there's opportunities for people to serve, and we have vacancies. So that's number three. So that is what I'm still working on. It is a process, but I am still working on that. So that's what I've come up with. And I welcome any feedback of how we can change things, or if any CAB members have time to help me work on this, you know, so that would be my suggestion.
Okay. So I heard you were asking for help then to.
If any CAB members are open to help with this process of collecting the emails so that I can send out a introductory email introducing CAB, introducing ORJ and CAB. And the purpose is for us to be able to provide them with the information to include in their newsletter, as Supervisor Carlson has done very well for us.
Okay.
I have a question, and Monique, maybe this would be helpful. Remember the list that we put together before? I think the vast majority, the work is already done. And might I suggest just to have a list of a mayor, those aren't the people that put the information to go out to the constituents. And that's why that list has, yes, here's the city, but it's the contact that you have to get to, that's boots on the ground, not because when you call the mayor's office, you'll get the mayor's assistant, you'll get the vice mayor, you'll spend 19 hours, and then eventually you'll get to Brenda, and she says, oh, thank you very much. Yes, I'll get that in the mayor's letter. So might we just go back to that list so we're not complicating work for you, and just go back and check those individuals? If they're not there, who's the new person? Wouldn't that be quicker than starting out, finding out every mayor, sending something to the mayor's list? And it's like, what is it? The hamster. We're the doggone hamster again, rather than we've already got the information there. And I'll be willing to bet of the 20 items that we have, I'll bet 14 of them, 12 to 14 are good. So that means we just lessened our work. I hope that helps, but again.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you, Crawford. So really comparing the two lists to see what changes have been made. Okay, I will definitely take that advice, and I will compare both lists and update it accordingly.
I'll do 5 of those.
Okay, well, let me know which 5 you do.
I'll do 5. I'll check 5 of them.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm happy to help as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So he'll do 5. Now, who else are going to do 5?
So I'll blind. I think it's about 12, but or 20 maybe. I can. I'll blind copy all of you and put the list on there, and then we can divvy it up that way.
Okay. May I suggest so that you can make it quicker for yourself? I'll do 5. Evan said he'll do 5. Brenda will do 5.
I don't mind.
Okay, and so just take that list, divide it up. Those are the 5 people you contact. Okay. And then we're not working the death out of you.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you.
All right.
She has angel status. Yeah. So
wait, now you all are the angels. So thank you. Okay, I'll get it out to you.
All right, and just put those names on, and yeah, let's simplify.
Simplify it.
Great.
Simplicity.
Just defined a process, and when you're gone, though, the next group that comes in, if this group isn't all together again,
are they gonna know not to go to the mayor and vice mayor and all that other stuff? You see what I'm saying? If that's documented, don't take that route, go the route you just defined. That's a process, okay? This is wasted time, this is efficient, go that route. And again, if they didn't change their numbers, it'd be really easy, but yeah, but they did.
All right, so we have that next step for number 6. So number 7 on the agenda, the concept from our last meeting, if we go to page 16 in the packet. From our last meeting, we came out and there was some updated contacts for the assembly and state and board supervisor. So while I was going through and I was going to assign some to Brenda and some to Scott, well, by going through it, I just kind of ended up doing. So, so here's.
We like you.
So love them.
Yeah.
So here's the list. This is what was gathered from the state and county website. So I actually haven't called any of these people to see if those are still the people. So if that is the next step that we need to do, but I don't know if that's the next step that we do or if Monique is the one that actually schedules contact, or if this is just for email purposes.
Well, to my knowledge, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, it's the same thing. This is for outreach, right? So what we want to do is take those representatives that have constituents in Contra Costa County, and we want to be able to add them to our email list when we send out information, but also ask them to put it in their newsletters so that we can get the word out, right? Now, if you look at this list, which is great, a great list. Thank you, Evan. You did a great job. So from this list, we know that not all these individuals service Contra Costa County. So I believe Sassoon that's in Solano County, right? And then Vallejo is Solano, I believe, and then Oakland obviously is in Alameda. So we have some representatives that serve both Alameda and Contra Costa County. So we would find that out, and then Patrice suggested that we do a separate link, a separate list, if you will. So we use Constant Contact. So we have we can create separate lists for the different representatives that have constituents in Contra Costa County, and we can include them in the list as appropriate. Because the way I do it now is I take everybody that's on our list and I just send the information out. You all are included in the list, so you have been receiving it as well. But she does not want to inundate the representatives with all of our information, but she wants me to, I guess, simplify it to where they receive the information that's pertinent to what they're doing. Does that make sense?
And so I think if you look at the districts, all of those districts have Contra Costa County constituents.
Even the ones in Solano, which are
so on the right-hand side, that's the district office.
Right.
And so for some of the districts that cross county lines,
okay.
They don't necessarily have a district office within that county.
Okay. Okay.
But from the list that Crawford had given me, this is everybody here. I didn't add any districts.
Okay, I can ready to say this. Let's not reinvent the wheel again. The list exists of the state representatives and state senators, the contact person in their office, because it's not necessarily the chief of staff. So you've already got that. So we just update that and we're done.
And so that's what I did.
Okay.
I updated it, but there was a question because around, is that the appropriate person? Like, for example, or was this somebody that somebody knew? Because there's the press secretary. Most of them have a district coordinator. Some of them have a
The
field
list
representative.
that I sent you,
Yeah.
that's boots on the ground, the person that will get it in the list.
Okay.
Because I already went through the chief of staff,
Yeah,
I went through the district reps. Sometimes it is the district rep or district representatives, other
Yeah.
times it's not. So the person that was on that original list that you received, that's the person that will get it done.
okay, so that's that list updated. I should have probably highlighted the ones that I changed. But I think there was only 3 or 4 changes.
Okay.
Um,
So I can definitely create a list for the state representatives and include them in our constant contact. And I could also send out an email blind copying the rep email saying, you know, what our objective is for them to publicize the information about CAB and the vacancy. The same as with the mayors. So I can do that since this list, it appears to be updated. And thank you, Evan and Crawford. And so I can add them to our list and send out an introductory email.
okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so on to number 8, and I apologize. I wasn't seeing this the first time around, but we voted on the work plan.
You did. So that vote should disregard that. So it doesn't need to be voted on. You'll just, and I looked at that too as I was scrolling through it as well. But we can review it, and because what we have been doing is the work plan will be on every agenda.
Right.
To just go over it, to discuss it and see what if anything has changed or updated, just to update your committee.
Okay, I'm gonna suggest and move that we push the discussion to the work plan to the next meeting, and we actually have some ambassador program talk, because we didn't quite get to that so much last time. And I know in our work plan, I think we should be talking about it now. Is that okay with everybody if we just go to the number 9? All right, so the ambassador program. So here's a great example of something I'd like to have more information about. And as I understand it right now, and I think we went through, if we look, sorry to go between 2 things, but the last task on our work plan on the back page is around the ambassador program. And the way I understand it is we have ambassadors from CAB that we have yet to assign or to ask or volunteer that will be making appointments with the list that we just saw there, and then having informational conversations about CAB. And so at this part of the conversation, we have the discussion happening between March and July, with meetings scheduled from September to October. I think what I'm hoping for is kind of more information about how we pick the people that are going to do this, and then what are we actually talking about?
So it's actually not voluntold.
Oh, okay.
But in the end, there may be a couple of those only because, something didn't align right, or somebody left CAB or something like that.
Right.
But what I think we should do here when I return from my trip over the next week and a half is I get with Monique, and there is kind of a sign-up process that you used last year that was very good. And each member of the CAB has the ability to go, "Ooh, I'd like to be, I'd like to interview that person or be a part of the process." So we pick and choose. Now it may not even out quite right where we all want to interview, the same person. Obviously, we have to go back at it, the selection. But that part of it is kind of really coming up on us. And we learned that last year we waited a little too long. So when there were some glitches, it threw us. And so Monique, I was gonna, if Evan is okay with this, I was gonna reach out to you when I get back from Mexico, and we get that sign up established with all the CCP, current CCP board and CAB members, so we can start that process. Does that sound good?
Yes, that sounds good. And what we do, Evan, just for your knowledge and anyone else's knowledge, is we can do it. I can blind copy it and send it out. I think that's how we've done it. And then once we put it on the agenda for the full CAB members, then they come prepared with maybe they have already sent me their first, second, and third choice. Off the top of my head, I don't remember how we did it, but the bottom line is when it comes to the full CAB, it will be like the work has already been done, mostly as far as their selection. So they don't have to select at the meeting. They can send me their selections, and then I can kind of go through the document and look at the overlaps and kind of, organize it. So once it's on the full body CAB meeting agenda, then we can select and finalize it. So yeah, we have 2 minutes too.
Okay, that sounds good in terms of the process, but in that email, in that email, how is it shared out as to what the people are volunteering for?
So it's a chart. It's a chart with like a chart with 9 columns, and each column would be the agencies that you're in setting a meeting up with, right? And then all of your names are listed, and then you would be either a lead or a second, and 2 people would self-select where they want to go. And then, like I said, I would have people do first, second, and third choice. And then at that point, I'll make sure it's clean. And then once we get to the CAB meeting, then it's displayed and we do it there right on the spot to finalize it. And we could do it over 2 times. It doesn't have to be done at one meeting, depending on our time frame.
Thank you for that. I think I'm more talking about the last sentence on the bottom. Assist CAB in developing messaging talking points. When the email has gone out asking for the process, asking to volunteer for this thing.
What is this thing?
What is the thing?
Yeah.
That is the ambassador toolkit.
Okay,
have
great.
Talking points in there. We walk you through it. There's a script in there. If you wish, you are not required now. This is an aid.
Suggest. Yeah.
It's suggestion. If your style is different, go for it. If not, this will walk you through it. It'll get you through, and it's bam, bam, bam.
Okay. So, and this is in our work plan, so that falls within us to do. So maybe at the next meeting, we'll review the ambassador toolkit, unless you all have already done it, and I'm just outing myself as not having looked at it that well.
No, I think it's smart to look at it again, because I looked at it before every ambassador meeting we had.
Okay.
And again, that toolkit, when Scott's committee put that together last year, you can tweak it this year. You can say this year now, we're going to tweak it. We're going to update it. This is fine.
Right.
That's the whole point.
And
nothing's etched in stone.
Right. And in terms of going to the general CAB meeting, we're the entity responsible for sharing that information out to the general CAB and saying, so we should know what's in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How does that sound, Julius and Brenda? Scott, you want to do that?
Yeah. No, I think
Okay.
that's very important.
Okay. Cool. All right. Great.
So I see 2 next steps. Are there any other next steps?
I don't think so. Not in relation to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I need to add anything about the culture or the item that Scott and Crawford are working on? I need to share that with you all, right? So that's something you'll be discussing next month?
Yeah, I think
they're going to clean it up.
Yeah, because I think we talked about that was the informational recruitment presentation. And then I was thinking more about the onboarding into CAB
Right. But is that a document that you'd like me to include for next month?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what that document is called, Scott and Crawford?
Well, it's our PowerPoint, the CAB PowerPoint. So I don't know. Yeah.
It's
CAB
the yearly update to the CAB PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of our.
Okay. All right. I got it. So those are your 3 next steps.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
Can I just add one more thing? I know you're going to adjourn in a minute. So I see that I made a mistake here for the next CCP meeting. It's actually on a Wednesday. It's April 26th. Normally, I think they meet on Fridays, but this meeting will be Wednesday, April 26th at 9 a.m., which is a different time than their normal cadence. And it will be in person here at 50 Douglas. They likely will have a link. I don't know if it's been posted yet, but that is the information I received from the CAO office.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Malik, and thank you for your continued facilitation.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other comments? Good of the order? No? All right. Well, then we'll adjourn at 12:33 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay.
I want to ask you. Yeah, no, this was excellent. And I can see with the state-based kinds of.
Because I was looking, I was talking about
and I'm
there's a group in which
president for my club, Lima Sunrise Rotary, and I'm thinking of some of your process flow chart. Whatever your term was.
You know, I don't know if
Workflow.
yeah, I know
There's a couple of processes we have that are
so I
fairly
think they're
involved. And if we
think that's
put
what
it
it is?
in
I'm not
simple
sure.
form,
So it's
all
other
of
lines,
us understand.
I looked up.
This is what I have